Alright, welcome back to Plastic Models by a Regular Dude, and part 5 of the Eduard 148 scale BF 109 E3 Weekend Edition. Alright, we left off last time. We got the tail stuff put on, and that all went well. So we're all lined up pretty good. Can't hold it that straight, but looks pretty level. So the next thing I want to do is work on the landing gear. So I'm going to get the appropriate sprinkles out, and we're going to take a look. So that would be the D sprue. So I'm going to cut these parts off and we'll get cracking. Alright, so I've got the I kind of jumped the gun and put the wheels together. There's not a whole lot to really talk about there. You just have to make sure there's a square hole, square peg. Make sure they line up to where the spokes line up, because if you don't, then you'll end up with spokes that'll be here on the inside instead of lined up there. So that's one thing to watch. This right here was kind of tricky to put on, but after the first one I found a good way to do it and got it put on there. It's super small. So next thing I need to do is I need to paint all this stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and get my paint stuff set up here, and then we'll get cracking on painting this. Real quick, like before I paint this stuff, I want to first talk about flat spots on the wheels. These don't have them molded in, so I'm going to make my own, and I'm just going to kind of guess at the angle. It shows you here the angle that the landing gear is supposed to be, so I'm just going to kind of give it a stab, and as long as it's kind of angled, I'm not going to make it real flat, but I do want to, so it looks like a little bit of sag from the tires. And that's all I'm doing. Just using the old 220 sanding stick, just drag it on there and get some sag. That might be a bit much. Look at my illustration here. No, it's not. Just looking at the illustration on the just got to make sure you do it on the right side. You know, you want to have the lowest spot on the inside part where the axle is. So that looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and do this other one here, and then get my paint and everything ready so we can start painting this stuff. Okay, I've got my paint in the paint cup. Now here's a quick note about Tamiya paint. I know I go on and on about how awesome Tamiya paint is, but here's another reason why. Yesterday I used up all the paint that was in my paint cup, set my airbrush aside, wanted to do my thing, and then clean my airbrush, and I totally forgot. It sat there for like 3 hours. So that paint in there, it dried up real dandy like. So what did I do? I got some just regular old lacquer thinner, hardware store lacquer thinner, and put some in there, swished it around a little bit with a cotton bud, dumped that out, put some more in it, sprayed it a few times, and it cleaned it out. That's the thing I like about Tamiya paint. One of the big things I like about Tamiya paint is it can dry, but it's not going to leave a skin and chunks like some of the other acrylic stuff, like say Vallejo or stuff like that. And you know, people use that stuff to great effect, but I don't. And if I'm doing a long-term spraying job, sometimes it's really nice to be able to just set the airbrush aside with the paint still in it and not worry about it drying up in the cup. So just some quick little thoughts on my favorite Tamiya paint. So let's get painting here. So I think what I'll do first, I'll paint these, and what I'm doing is I'm just holding these in place because only one side needs to be painted. Let's see if I can get it in a way that you can see what I'm doing. And probably what I'm going to be doing here is using super glue to glue the gear to the gear doors. I may not have to. That's blocking that hole off pretty good. You know me and my keeping keeping the, oh man. The other nice thing is it dries super fast too. And all that hollering in the background is my wife talking to the grandchild. So sorry about the extra commentary, but you know, ain't gonna stop Gigi from talking to the grandkids on FaceTime. But anyway, so we got those painted, and then what I'll do is I will flip these over when it's time and paint the other side, the outside, the color that I'll be using for the exterior bottom, Arling 65. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and finish painting these up and then come back. All right, so we got the landing gear struts, the inside of the doors, and the wheels painted. The wheels painted, I used, you can't really tell too much, but I used NATO black for the tires and flat black for the wheels. And then I'll get some weathering going on the wheels so it'll differentiate it a little bit more. But that's that. So now what I need to do is I've got my Vallejo metal color aluminum, and I need to paint the oleos. I'm wearing a glove so I don't get fingerprints all over this. So what I'm going to do is take a little bit of this and drop it on the back of this like that. And using my handy dandy brush here, I am going to paint them. Now there are shinier products out there that would probably be better for this, but this is good enough for me because I'm easy to please. Now, I don't know if many of you out there have ever done any target shooting or hunting or anything like that. But one of the things that you're taught to do is to take a breath and let half of it out, hold it, then gently squeeze the trigger. Well, I kind of do the same thing when I'm painting close to something I don't want to get my paint on. I do the same exact thing. So there's some practical usage for target shooting techniques other than just for target shooting. Okay, so that's freebie. Just a little tip for you there. So just doing that, got that all, look at that. That's beautiful. I'm really stoked. Okay, so I'll do it to the other one. Then when we come back, we'll be able to glue these components together maybe. All right, so I've got the rest of the cowling and the front end pieces cut off. So since this does not in any way tell me exactly how this is supposed to go together, I'm just gonna take a big old fat wild guess and do this. So this part here goes on the back of this little duct, and that goes in place, I think, if you're doing it with the cowling off. I'm doing it with the cowling on, so there's no reason for this piece, I don't think, because, no, there's not, because it just fits, this fits right here on that cowling. But before I get into that, I'm going to put these side pieces on. Now, there are two side pieces here. There is a 5 and a 9, and they look really close, but apparently on this one you use 5, which has kind of a pointier tail end on it than this one, which is more rounded. So we will put this in place here like that. Now, I think in order to avoid eliminating that panel line, I am going to use this cement here, a thicker liquid cement. And what I will do is I will put, let's see, I think I'll put it on the part itself. Make sure I get it on the right side. So I'm just gonna put, okay, just a little bit around like that, because I'm afraid if I use the Tamiya extra thin, I'm afraid it will fill in that panel line, because it's a pretty tight panel line and I don't want to lose that panel line detail. So we'll put this here like this, push it into place like that, let that dry for a few minutes, and then we'll put this piece, after I sand the burr off the top or the bottom, put that part on this side using the same method after I test fit it. Seems to be hanging up on the bottom, perhaps. Now, one thing that it's not a bad idea to forget, that if you ever look at photos of these things, of the real deal, very rarely do the all these panels, cowlings and all that kind of stuff fit into place exactly right. They can be quite out of whack. See, that's out of whack right there, and I kind of don't like that. I'm afraid it might be too much. But let's put this top piece on here and see. Yeah, that's too much out of whack. That's not going to work. So I need to do a little bit of surgerizing. It seems to be like there's a little bit hanging up right there, like a detail's extending out too far. And then on the bottom here, there we go. Much better. And let's put this on here and see what it looks like. Yeah, that's a lot better. All right, so let's pop this back off. Put the cement in the appropriate spots. Oh, man. Got a little overzealous with squeezing that there cement. Okay. A little bit too much right there. Okay, so we're good. All right, so we'll take this. I think this is going to take some muscle because this is a super tight fit on this bottom right here. So like that. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's see what this cowling looks like right here. Yeah, that looks good. Sweet. All right, and I'm going to wait till after I get this put into position here before I put that little grill or whatever it is. And then I think, let's see how this fits here. Yeah, that all looks pretty good. But I need to glue the machine guns in to that cowling, so that'll be a good opportunity to let that dry. So the machine guns, again, I could be missing it, but it's not showing me anywhere to put the machine guns in place with the closed cowl version. Just let me double check all my stuff here. Yeah, there it is. Okay, yeah, it does tell you right here in this, that one there. So that's D16. I don't even know if you saw that. Kind of, yeah, see, D16 right there. It goes in the cowling. So put that in there. Okay, so the short, sorry, didn't mean to shake you around there. The short barrel goes on the left. So it's got a couple of little got a couple little indentations for the back corner of this, but by no means does it fit in there really well. So probably just have to lay it down in there and then adjust it from the outside. God bless it. Yeah, just like that. Ta and da. Sweet. All right, let that dry up for a minute. Okay, so those are good to go. So let's go ahead and put this in place. That all lines up pretty good. So what I'm going to do, drop some cement right there. and right there. There. And there. Okay, slide that, oops, just a little bit like that. All right, so I'm gonna let that dry for a minute so nothing falls off. All right, that's nice and in place and solid. So now we need to put this on here. And that looks like it's gonna fit nicely, maybe? Yeah, looks pretty good. Yeah, that looks good. That's gonna fit all right. There's a bit of a gap there, but you know what? I'm not even gonna sweat it. Like I was saying, some of the photos I've seen, these things don't fit together the best. But yeah, that one's kind of disturbing though. I wonder if it has to do with this right here. I think it does. I think it's bottoming out on that instrument panel. So it's not going down any further. So here's going to be the real test to see if it's going to be an issue. See, I don't know if they had a gap problem with that part on the real deal or not. Let's see. Let's get the windscreen and test how that fits. So for this, I am going to put on some glouvage. That's Model Dude for gloves. Glouvage. Some weird foreign language. And I have these all the time, not just for COVID-19. Ridiculous. All right, so let's chop this off of here. And this off of here. And see how it looks. Whoops. That looks all right. I think we'll be okay. We'll be okay with that. Okay. I sweateth not. Boy, that's just hard to get back in the bag. All right, I'm gonna do the same thing with this here gun cover. right there like that. Okay, I'm going to clamp this with one of my big clamps because I want to make sure that it's bottomed out and it stays bottomed out. I say big clamp, I'm going to use one of these. Oh my God. A certain amount of frustration is beginning to set in here. Okay, now we'll let that cure up. While that's drying up, let's go ahead and glue this. Little grill thing or whatever it is into place. Looks like it's crooked. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, this is starting to bug me. That little piece that's supposed to line it up, I'm going to cut it right off because it's not lining it up. It's looking all cockeyed. And that ain't going to hunt. Ha! Look at that. Give it a quick swipe of the sandpaper. Let's see how it fits now. I'd rather have to adjust it around to fit than monkey around with that weird little fitting thing on it. Alrighty then, let's take these here tweezers, drop it in. Oh, look at that. Fits like a flippin' glove. Oh, stellar. That is bomb-fortunal. So let's take the old handy dandy cement here. Some on there, push this back into place. Oh, look at that. Oh, championship. Let's put a little down here on the bottom, shall we? Well, Heidi flipping ho. Oh, stellar. So let's let that dry. We're getting real close to being done with assembly here, folks. Real close. So while that's drying, since I'm getting so close to being done with all this stuff, I am going to cut off the propeller parts. So we got that. We got that. And we got this big piece here, whatever this is. You know, some kind of fan or something. I'm just kidding. It's a propeller. Alright, so let's clean these up a bit. Oh man. And these, the way they're, oh boy, yeah, right there by that flipping locating pin. That's awesome. So we got that. that like that. So, whoa, they put that sprue gate right by a locating pin. That is phenomenal. But you know what? I can overcome. I can persevere. All right, so we got that. Wow, that's good. Do it quick. Smooth that out a little bit. Likewise with this one. All right, I'm going to stick this on here because the front of this has got to be painted black. And then this will be glued in place there like that. Then we got the old propeller. This propeller is molded quite nicely, except for those sink marks in the back. That's pretty nice. Okay, but let's see how it fits on here. Okay, let's see how this fits on here. That is a super snug fit, but it fits. And then, more importantly, see if that fits on there and if it's kind of centered up. Oh, that's excelente, as they say in the Espanol. Okay, so we got to paint that. I also need to paint this, so I'll put those on there. I need to paint the prop, so I'm going to put that on one of my handy dandy holder while you paint sticks. All right, so we got that. This here, that's going to be painted with the rest of the thing, so we'll set that aside. Let's see, so that's looking pretty good. So the only other thing I need to do, I think this is probably dry now. Yep, so we're good. All right, there's that. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to start doing the masking on the canopy, and I will show you how I do that. Now, I just realized something before I get too crazy with all this masking and taping and all those splendid things. So I need to paint the gun sight. So let me get those sprue gates taken care of there. All right, so there's that. Get rid of those. That cut off. That cut off. Give it a quick swipe with the sanding stick. Let's see how that fits, shall we? Like a glove. Oh man, that's beautiful. Man, that is just more awesome than a barrel of monkeys. So that fits really good. So we'll set that aside because we'll have to do some masking on there. Boy, that's some skinny stuff right there. That's going to be fun to get that all masked up. But you know what? We can do it. So back to this here gun sight. Now this is kind of nice. Now the last aircraft that I build, I'm at a loss as to remember what it was, but the mold seam, or the parting seam for this thing, was right up the middle of the lens for the gun sight. Just atrocious. Why on God's green earth would anybody design something like that is beyond me. But they did, and it was just real jolly to try and clean that up. As a matter of fact, it's on pretty near impossible. Okay, so we got the gun sight, so I'm going to leave it on this piece of sprue here to aid in painting it, and I'm going to clip it into this clamp here, thusly, to hold it in place. So basically what I need to do is I need to paint all of it except for the lens parts. It needs to be painted black. So you've seen me paint stuff before, and I'm sure you don't want to see me paint stuff again, so I'll do this off camera, come back once I have it done. Okay, got the gun sight glued in place with medium viscosity super glue. So that's ready to go. Oh my goodness. Okay, so that's ready to go. All right, so we're good there. All right, so here's what I'm going to do next. Next, I'm going to start masking the canopy parts, and this is the way I do it. Now, if I was really, you know, feeling groovy, I'd just order me some masks for this. But you know what? I'm just going to do my own because I don't want to wait for them to come in. And with the luck I've been having with mail service lately, I'm not thinking I want to take the chance. Okay, so we got that, and we've got that. Now you can't do this for all things, but for this one, we'll probably be okay. Let's get my desktop kind of cleared back a little bit here. My paintbrushes and all that stuff out of the way. Okay, so then, now notice that I've cut this at an angle. Oh yeah. Now if it looks like one of your corners is too long, snip that baby off. And I'm going to have to do that. So put it right there. And it's just going to take just a little teeny tiny bit like that. All right, so that is going to fit right there like that. Perfect. Okay. So we've got that part. Then I will cut another one for the other side. Like that. See if I can use my knife to place it. It might be a little easier. Okay, so we're good there. And then we'll do this here. Now this one doesn't have to be as crucial because you're already down there in those corners. So it's just kind of like that. I'm going to just trim a little bit of that off. Now the nice thing is, if you're not exact in your corners, you can take a toothpick and burnish off the paint, and it's not going to hurt the plastic. Now, a lot of people cannot stand masking. Masking is actually a part of the modeling process that I actually enjoy. And here's why. I like the challenge of getting the masks on there. But more importantly, I like when I'm done and I peel it off and I see that I've succeeded in masking it off. Okay, so there's that one right there. So I'm going to do the same thing on the rest of these. I'm also going to do the same thing on these here, except they'll be smaller pieces because they're smaller panels. And I'll be good to go. So I'm going to work on that. And then on these, it's a little more tricky because you have these curves. So these I may actually, because there is a bit of a lip there, I may try and put my tape on there and trim that out. If I do, I'll show you. All right, so I'll come back. All right, all of my masking is done, and I did it in a couple of different ways. I did it like I demonstrated, where I just kind of went around the flat spots. Some of them, the relief on the actual canopy framework was enough that I was able to just put a big piece of tape and cut around it. So it's all ready to go. So now I need to glue these canopy parts in place. And here's what I'm going to be doing. First of all, I need to make sure this is really super flat right here, where the sprue gate was, so it fits really flush like that. That looks good. All right, and I'm going to use two different cements on this. I'm going to use clear part cement for the bottom edge, and you know what, actually, yeah, clear part cement on the edges that touch this painted part, and then I'll use just regular liquid cement right here on the front. If I can get this out of here, where this part meets the front. All right, so as I was monkeying around with it, I kept hearing something clattering around inside of the fuselage and couldn't understand what it was. I couldn't remember any parts that, you know, could be loose to make a clattering sound, and realized I'd knocked the wretched gun sight off. That is one of the frustrating things about aircraft. is they generally have such a small contact point for gluing into place that they're just horrido. So anyway, got that fixed for now. Hopefully it'll stay. So now let's move on to using the Clear Parts Cement by Model Master to glue this piece of canopy / windshield on. So I'm just going to put just a little bit on the inside edge. You don't have to worry about it getting up on the inside too much. I mean, you don't want to get all sloppy, but that is going to be these lower kind of triangles here are actually going to be painted the color of the fuselage. That's why they aren't taped off. So any little seepage that you would, get on the inside, you're not going to see because it's going to be covered with paint. So we got that. Now let's take our Tamiya Extra Thin and carefully apply it just to the seam and hope that it flows in there and gives a nice, there we go, nice firm bond. So I'm going to hold that for a second, let that set up. I gotta say that I like the way a lot of these manufacturers are doing cockpits nowadays, because back in the old days, like back in the dim dark years of the 70s, you could get cockpit parts that just didn't fit. For example, these little triangles here could have possibly been molded onto the windshield or onto the fuselage, and then this fit on top of it and not be quite right. But they seem to nowadays mold them in a way that it goes where there are natural panel lines. So even if they don't fit like super exact, but in this case it does, you get a nice, flat surface instead of, this isn't as great of an example as some of the ones that have like curved areas where it's flashed together. It's harder to get the curves from one part onto the other part exactly right. So it's just kind of nice how they do it nowadays. So now we're going to do the same thing with this. Make sure that the tape is stuck down well, and that is going to go there like that. So I'm going to do the same thing with this glue here. This one you want to be a little more careful because you can see it a little more from the outside, so you don't want to get too much of this on there. Just enough to hold it in place. Okay, and then we'll put that right there, like that. Oh, jeez. This kind of stuff drives me nuts. And it's not sticking at all. It's making me sad. There we go. Make sure it's... Now the nice thing about this kind of cement is it doesn't mar the finish. So let's try this again. Looks like there's a little something here that's keeping it from contacting right. There's like a little, yeah, there's a little piece of plastic right there. It's a little tiny piece of plastic. All right, so now let's try it again. I find this stuff to be harrowing, to say the least. It's hard to hold these parts when they're curved like this. Okay, so let's get some. All right, so let's try this again. Okay, that's a little better because that little piece of plastic is gone. All right, so there's that. So I'm going to let those dry up really good before I monkey around with anything else. So in the meantime, let's take a look at some of our other parts and what needs to be painted. Okay, I backed my camera off a little bit because I want to, I'm using my stand now, which raises up a little bit more, and I am going to start masking this stuff off. Anything that I don't want the color altered needs to be masked. So let's see. The way I'm going to do it, just take my tape. And fill in all these pieces here. And then trim it down a little bit closer. So I just got a piece of tape here. It's the 18 millimeter. And we'll see if I can get it down in that trough without too much fuss. Don't like that, so pull it out. Try it again. That's better. I want to cover as much of that inside as possible. Like that. So let me do the other one. Okay, so off camera I've been masking stuff off using foam from foam paint brushes to fill in the wheel wells. Tape here, tape there, tape there. The top, what I'm going to do here is that is actually wow, that's cool. That is super snug in there, so I'm not going to have to do anything other than just sit it right there and hope I don't blow it off with my, well, I will with my airbrush, so that's not going to work. All I'm probably going to tack that in place with probably some white glue, just regular white PVA glue, because that'll allow me to pop that off once the painting's done. So this is ready to paint. All of the parts back here are ready to paint. The spinner and this part that goes inside of the canopy is ready to paint. The propeller is ready to paint. So I think with that, I am ready to paint. So that's the end of this video. Wanted to get to this point. When we come back, I will work on the paint. But first, on the next video, I'll talk a little bit about what I'm going to have to do to paint. There are, let's see, a few little small parts that need to be put into place. I will probably do that off camera. The counterweights for the ailerons. I'm going to put these in place here. I will probably just use some like two-sided tape or something to put those in place for painting. Or I might use PVA glue. We'll see. But I'll do that, and that way everything will be ready to go. The gear struts and the wheels are done, and they're ready to be installed, so I can set those aside out of harm's way. And that will be that. So next time we come back, I'll be talking about the actual paint scheme. We'll get some primer on here and some paint, and start going to town. All right. So thanks for joining me here on Plastic Models by a Regular Dude in the 1/48 scale Eduard BF 109E3 Weekend Edition. As always, if you have any comments, hints, tips, blah, 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 put them down in the comments below, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. So until next time, I will see you all later.